Hello, Assalamu alaikum, and welcome to all of you in today's session. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa ahlul uqdatin min lisani yafqahu qawli. O Allah, open my heart and ease my task for me and remove the impediments from my speech so that they may understand what I say. Today's session is a very important session. It's a very timely topic, and as usual, ACCA has taken the lead to apprise its members and bring all the other professionals up to speed on this important topic. As you must all be aware that recently an asset declaration ordinance has been promulgated, commonly referred to as the tax amnesty, and that is our today's session's topic. So we'll begin by briefly introducing myself. For those of you who are attending the session for the first time, I'm a fellow chartered certified accountant, honored to be chairing the MNP and the Taxation Committee of ACCA. In addition to that, I'm also a CFA charter holder, chartered public finance accountant, chartered accountant with AML specialization. Over 10 years fund of experience gained by both working abroad as well as in Pakistan. At the moment, working as a managing partner at MLCC, which is the pioneer ACCA and legal practicing firm in Pakistan. Besides that, with regard to training sessions, I'm honored to have conducted mandatory promotional trainings of government officers at MBTD, having worked with top institutions like National Bank, Bank Al-Nahid, Mizan, HBL, IBB, Lahore, Karachi, Pakistan, Tax Bars, Chambers, ICAP, ICMAP, our very own ACCA. In fact, Harun Sahib is sitting right here with me. I remember the days when we really started this CPD and webinar program, and those early days we used to have extensive sessions. So that's also like being a torchbearer for that with regard to the trainer side, and that's something I am really honored for. For those of you who do like to read, I'm a regular contributor in various English language dailies and international research publications. I'm also representing Pakistan on the Global Tax Forum. I'm a life member and chairman of Finance Economic Affairs Committee of Lahore Tax Bar, 4 times serving chairman liaison committee of the Lahore Tax Bar. I'm also chairing the Tax Clinic, which is a joint initiative of Lahore Chamber and ACCA, and have served on the Finance Economy and Taxation Committee of Lahore Chamber. In addition to that, I'm also advisor to several parliamentarians on various forums on economic and taxation reforms. Also been honored to have received various awards, particularly Exceptional Public Value Award 2 year running and the National Advocacy Award by ACCA. So that's pretty much about me. You would be having the handouts, so you can go through the intro in detail later on. So let's move on to the major session for today. Before that, just a professional acknowledgement that several legislations and reports of FPR, World Bank, various organizations, and our own firm MLCC have been used in developing this presentation for your use. And due to limited time and the extensive nature of the topic, we have strived to cover the maximum possible core concepts within the allotted time. However, as you can understand, the content coverage had to be prioritized and managed in order to suit the requirement and constraints of today's session. So let's start. Before we talk about the tax amnesty, or commonly known as the Asset Declaration Ordinance of 2019, let's have a quick review of the history of tax amnesties in Pakistan. Well, the first ever and one of the more successful tax amnesty schemes in Pakistan was launched during Field Marshal Ayub Khan's era in 1958. It resulted in a collection of approximately 1.12 billion Pak rupees, which at the exchange rate of the time amounted to approximately 0.24 billion US dollars. It resulted in 71,289 people coming forward and filing their declaration, and thereby extending the tax net by the same amount. After that, General Virjaya Khan also launched a tax amnesty scheme in 1969, which was not as successful. It ended up adding only 19,600 new taxpayers within the tax net and a declared assets of just 920 million Pak rupees. After that, we had a tax amnesty by the then head of the state, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, well, technically he was prime minister, so not really the head of state. He launched a tax amnesty in 1976, which saw the number of people declaring assets actually declining drastically as compared to the previous two tax amnesties. And assets worth only rupee 270 million were declared. So just put that in perspective: 1.12 billion, 920 million, and 270 million. Then there was a scheme launched by General Ziaul-Haq's government, which was a total disaster in terms of both the revenue collection and the number of new taxpayers. Perhaps one of the reasons that there wasn't that much motivation regarding a tax amnesty at that point of time, Pakistan being a recipient of generous funds flowing into the country for various reasons. Then we had the PMLN government tax amnesty scheme in 1997. It added only rupee 141 million. In 2000, General Musharraf launched an amnesty, which was the most successful amnesty of the country to date. However, there was a technical lacuna. This amnesty allowed politically influential people, or what we commonly refer to as PEP, politically exposed persons, to take benefit of the amnesty. So the result of the amnesty was that there were asset declaration of approximately $3 billion. And it was the most successful one in terms of the revenue collection. Prior to this, there were 3 tax amnesties launched by the prior governments, and they were not really that successful, with only 128 people coming into the tax net. However, there were 2 tax amnesties which were launched in 2016 and 18. The one in 2016 saw 10,000 declarations and a meager 0.85 billion rupees, less than 1 billion, being declared. However, the 2018 tax amnesty was a success in terms of revenue collection. It generated close to $1 billion in revenues. However, it didn't result in any significant change in the tax compliance culture. So this shows this brief intro of the tax amnesty history in Pakistan. We can see that this disease of tax evasion and the curse of black money apparently has been engulfing Pakistan since its early years. It's not a recent phenomenon or a product of last 2-3 decades, as is commonly believed. So recently there has been a lot of hue and cry over the Asset Declaration Ordinance 2019, which has been introduced by the incumbent government. And this ordinance introduced by the government is commonly referred to as the tax amnesty scheme. The opposition has termed this as an opportunity for the near and dear ones and the politically exposed personalities to whiten their black monies. It is factually incorrect, because just like the tax amnesty in 2018, the political personalities and their relatives are not allowed to take advantage of this scheme. We'll be going through these details in a bit. Also, there have been claims that this amnesty scheme is an exact copy of the one launched in 2018. And as a result of these claims and some other things, there are a lot of confusions as to what exactly is this scheme. Is it any different from the last one? Whether it can help in the stated objective of achieving the broadening of the tax base, and what exactly entails in this new scheme. Let us briefly examine all these questions in an objective manner. So we'll begin by the overview of the Assets Declaration Ordinance 2019, the amnesty. This ordinance has been promulgated allowing undisclosed, unreported, and or even underreported assets, sales or expenditures up to 30th of June 2018, and or any Benami assets acquired or held on or before the date of declaration to be legally declared for the payment of very low taxes. So let's take a pause here. There are 2 parts to this. Number 1, anyone availing this tax amnesty can declared their previously undisclosed, unreported, and or underreported assets, sales and or expenditures, that is up to 30th June 2018. That's the first bit. The second bit is the Benami assets. If somebody had any Benami assets, then they can declare that as of the date of declaration. So Benami assets have the timeline that any assets held on or before the date of declaration can be declared. For other categories, the deadline is to declare those assets, sales, expenses that were up to 30th of June 2018. So what does mean that, let's say somebody is filing their declaration on 30th of June 2019. So they can declare their underreported assets or and undisclosed assets and or unreported assets, sales, expenditures for period up to 30th June 2018, not any period after that. However, for Benami asset, it can be disclosed for as of 30th June 2019. So this is an important but subtle difference that you need to understand. And this is also vital because Pakistan has enacted the Benami legislation, which now has promulgated serious punishments for those indulging in those transactions. So this being the first amnesty or asset declaration ordinance after the legislation addressing the issue of Benami asset, really put this particular nature of transaction under the radar. And that's why, as we'll be discussing, this is something which is very important and a core component of this asset declaration ordinance. So the scope, we briefly discussed the introduction, what exactly is being covered by this amnesty. But let's talk a bit about the scope of this amnesty. Right now on your screens, you can see the exact extract of the ordinance. This is section 3. It reads, subject to the provisions of this ordinance, any person may make on or before 30th June 2019 a declaration in respect of any undisclosed assets held in Pakistan and abroad, but acquired up to, as we have just discussed, 30th June 2018. Similarly, any undisclosed sales, but up to 30th June 2018, undisclosed expenditure incurred up to 30th June 2018. However, Benami assets acquired or held on or before the date of declaration, which at the most can be, under the current legislation, 30th June 2019, bearing any extension in the date. So now that we have covered the scope, let's discuss few important conditions for the declaration. This declaration has some vital differences as compared to the declarations that have been the subject of previous amnesties. One core requirement is that effectively what we technically call cash amnesty has kind of been reduced to the current period. How? Let's find out. Any cash that is held in Pakistan, which one is to declare under this amnesty, is to be deposited into the declarant's bank account and then kept in the account until at least 30th June 2019. So if you were to declare, let's say you want to make your declaration next week, then not only should you have that cash in your bank account, but you will need to hold that cash in that bank account till 30th June 2019. Why? What is being achieved here, or what is the attempt to achieve here? There are two things that are being envisioned here. Number one, what used to happen in the prior amnesties was that since almost always the rates of amnesties are very low, what we can refer to as dirt cheap, many of the people availing the amnesties used a tactic where they would declare more cash in hand than they actually had. So that resulted in them having a lot of cash on paper but not in hand. And what was done then was that later on the odd and malpractices used to carry on, and the future earnings from next 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years were underreported, and the excess cash was reconciled because of this previously declared excess cash in the amnesty. Let me try to make this clearer with an example. So for example, let's say somebody used to declare 10 million in cash in hand. Let's keep it simple. But they actually had 1 million in cash in hand. So why did they declare 9 million more than they actually had? Well, the reason was that now they had 9 million more widened legal money, cash in hand, for which they did not have to provide any evidence. Now they can use this excess of 9 million as cash in hand to justify the future earnings. So next year, maybe they had a 2 million earning, and they know that 400,000 is tax exempt. So maybe they declared just 400,000. So, but their actual earning was 2 million. So what to do with the 1.6 million? They would not declare that, but they would be able to reconcile that in the wealth statement, because remember that excess 9 million that was declared in the amnesty, that can now be used to justify this 1.6 million excess in the income which is underreported. So by having this requirement, and by requiring the people to actually deposit the cash in the bank account, to have the cash in the bank account, the government and the FBR have tried to close this loophole, which used to be, I would say, misused. Secondly, why is it required to keep the cash in the account till 30th June 2019? There are two aspects to this. Number one, the liquidity requirement. There is an economic crunch going on in the country at the moment. Banks having more cash is a good thing. Second, and more relevant and more important from the regulatory perspective, is that people can borrow from someone and put the cash in their bank account for some time period. Doing that for a longer time period would comparatively be difficult. Should raise a logical question. What then? What about the people who would be filing it near the last dates? Well, that is a very valid question, and they would have this undue advantage that they would still be able to borrow from someone, put it in the bank for a day or two, avail the amnesty, and then take that out. So, as is normally the case, the law is not foolproof. There are still lacunas that could have been addressed. Secondly, just in line with the requirement to have the cash in the bank account in Pakistan, if somebody has any foreign liquid assets which are declared but not repatriated back to Pakistan under the scheme, in addition to being taxed at a higher rate, which we would see in a bit, there is also the requirement that this foreign liquid asset must be deposited in the declarant's foreign bank accounts before 30th June 2019. So the same evidence